a lot of people who discuss narcissistic issues center on a few topics, and one amongst those topics is forgiveness. And I'm here to say, from my journey with understanding narcissism, healing from it, elevating from it, fighting against it, and fighting against, anybody with those tendencies having access to me, is this: I don't forgive. Okay, now, everything in our culture, particularly, religious teachings, shows, forgive and forget, and, turn the other cheek, and, who amongst us hasn't sinned, right? And that's all true. We've all sinned. But I tell you this, there's a special cruelty in harming someone who has not harmed you. And that's an unprovoked attack. I don't forgive unprovoked attacks. Now, my narc was my mother, okay? Is my mother. She's still living, as far as I know. And I have no plans on doing any extensive emotional work surrounding the idea or the concept of me fucking forgiving her, because I'm not. Now, that might sound like a decision born of anger, and indeed on some level it is, right? But anger can be healthy. Anger, when you fight against injustice, makes sense. Somebody walks up to you, punches you in the face, you should feel some fucking anger, and then you should respond in kind as a means to defend yourself. So anger isn't necessarily this horrible thing. I think they try to demonize anger, justified anger, in order to keep people slaves, But ultimately, my narcissistic abuse happened to me as a kid, right? Into my teenage years and a little bit into my early 20s. And at that point, think about it. Think about being a child and being abused. I mean, I was abused from the point of being a baby to the point of her spiking my bottles with shit because I was crying, to the point of her physically pushing me away when I was like 3 or 4, when I would go to hug her, in this sick game of I'll push you away until you cry, then I'll cuddle you, because that was the only way I could be held by her and shit, right? So you gotta ask yourself the question, what could an infant or a 3-year-old have done to incur this kind of fucking wrath from a full-grown adult who's supposed to be their mother? What could a child do to have fucking earned that? Nothing. It was an unprovoked attack. And I know the reasons. My dad died. I looked a lot like my dad. In fact, people say I look just like my dad. Act like my dad, sound like my dad, move like my dad, walk like everything. So she lost the love of her life, which I don't know if a damaged person can love, but she lost the love of her life young, like a week before I was born, and that became my fault. Unprovoked attack. And the bottom line is, I can understand a young woman wilding out like that, and I can even understand the psychological torture of that. I can even understand even being somewhat resentful of the child a little bit. I can understand that too. But I can't understand displaying those things to a child, a new being in this world who is just learning about themselves, and who ideally should like themselves, and who ideally should like their caretaker, and who ideally should feel that their caretaker wants to care for them. I can't understand doing that. And if you feel you must do that, either don't have kids or give them up for adoption. But neither of those actions were taken. So basically, I was stuck with this bitch who was spiraling, who was promiscuous, who would sleep with anyone for a little bit of money from the way she moved. This is what I was stuck with. So when I read all this bullshit, or when I have, a random person leave a comment on my video talking about forgiveness, or I had some lady call me judgy. You're judgy. It's like, fuck yeah, I'm judgy. Yes, I do judge a full-grown adult who harms a kid. Yes, I do. Yes, I do. If you harm your seed, fuck you. Yes, I'm judging you. And by the way, whenever people do that, understand you're dealing with a narcissist. Because any parent worth their salt is going to say, wow, I could never abuse my child. I don't even understand that. They would be appalled. They would be flabbergasted. They would be in fucking disbelief. If you're a parent, you're worth a damn. This should be like a sci-fi movie to you to hear about this shit. You should even question if this is reality. Because that should go against everything in you and your whole programming as a person who has decided to fucking replicate, and reproduce and add to the human fucking race, right? So I'm going all over the place, but I'm not gonna forgive because, one, there's been no desire for forgiveness. You gotta apologize first. You gotta be down to be open. You have to be vulnerable. You have to care about being vulnerable. You have to prioritize a person being made whole and being comforted through your apology over your pride. And that's not something my mother is or was capable of. So why the fuck should I forgive her? And not just her, for that matter, from my golden child brother and to all the bullshit people she brought in our lives. The people who decided to pile on me as the scapegoat. When I cut them off, I cut off that whole fucking family system. I cut them all off. Because you only got to slap me across the face once. I'm using that as a metaphor. My abuse is mostly psychological and exposure to her rampant, whorish sexuality. But you know what I'm saying. It took me over 3 decades to figure out what the fuck I was dealing with. And then once I saw it was deliberate, and once I saw that this bitch was using me as catharsis, meaning as a means to get her emotions out, that's deliberate. That is an unprovoked fucking attack. How do I forgive you? You don't even recognize what you did as wrong. And if you don't recognize treating someone wrong as a problem, then that means you don't have any value for that person. Why would I forgive someone who doesn't value me? If you like someone, you treat them well. If you meet someone you want to date and you want to keep them around, you take them on nice dates, you treat them nice, you buy them nice food, you show them different things. You know what I'm saying? You go different places with them. You listen to their problems. You prioritize them. Why? Because you value them. Why? Because you want to keep them around. You care for them. Even beyond your needs, you care for them. So what is my mom doing all the fuck shit she did? What does that communicate to me? You don't matter. Your feelings don't matter. I'm not going to change my behavior. You're not worth me changing my behavior. My pride is more important than the trauma that I have subjected you to, that you are still dealing with to this day. And basically fuck you. And oh yeah, to say nothing of the triangulation, turning my own brother against me, to say nothing of turning the whole fucking family against me, to say nothing of keeping us in poverty while she went out to Vegas and all these other places and bought cars she couldn't fucking afford and all kinds of bullshit like that. To say nothing of the fact that I watched her basically give up on my brother and didn't even care if he went to school or not. And this is the golden child. Sorry about the motorcycles. And this is the fucking golden child. You know, I remember going back home when I was in my early 20s, a little bit after I had first moved out. And I'd go home and it would be like a fucking Monday. And my brother would be home fucking around playing video games in his filthy ass room. I'm like, the fuck are you doing here? He's like, I'm like, it's a school day. It's 10 a.m. It's a fucking school day. Are you sick? No, I mean, I'm just chilling. Does mom know you're home? Yeah. She didn't give a fuck. And this is my theory. And if you're familiar with narc abuse, I'm sure you'll recognize this. She didn't give a fuck if he succeeded because that's her son husband. And if he was a fucking dropout, that would just mean he'd have to stay home with mommy. You ain't moving out as a dropout, probably. And if you do, it's going to take you a long time. I graduated, you know? But him, no, I need you to stay here. I need you to be with me. Because I, as this narcissistic pissant leech, have only invited other people that are toxic in my life. Therefore, I can't be left alone with them, and I need you to stay and be my man. Be the man that I couldn't attract because I'm a bum. Because any man worth a damn is going to take one look at my life, have a 2-second conversation with me and see how batshit crazy I am and ran through I am and say no thanks. Right? Like, literally, I remember one time after my mom left my stepdad, okay? She met a man. I don't remember the man's name. All I remember is he drove a van. Working man, blue collar, very nice. He took us to fucking Mexico. He took us all kinds of places. It was the first time, like, I felt like, oh, this guy could be like a dad. This is pretty cool. This guy, real nice, But the problem with him was he was nice. And he was a good man. And my mom doesn't like nice, good men. She likes either men who treat her like they can't stand the sight of her, or she likes men who can't stand the sight of her and also have jail and arrest records. That's what she likes. Or at least as she got older, maybe she felt like that was all she could get. But needless to say, that man, the only man I felt like, okay, this guy could be cool, as like my dad, she got rid of him quick. Anything positive, she got rid of. And, I wasn't there and I don't have a crystal ball. I'm not a psychic, and I didn't get a chance to speak to this man before he got ghosted or figured out she was, a bop or whatever. But I would speculate that he saw what she was and tried to give her some direction, as anybody who cares about another individual should do if you see them going the wrong way. And because chaos is her comfort, she got rid of him. And it was never spoken about again. And I also suspect that because he was a blue-collar guy, he didn't make enough money for her, so she fucking got rid of him. Even though he was a good guy, and if they had worked hard together, they could have built their money together. But you know how it goes. So, this woman literally made the bad choice. Every choice she made was a bad choice. Every choice. Because I imagine If I were a single mother, okay, and I didn't have the ability to keep a job for whatever reason, and I met a man who was decent looking, respectable, well employed, had kept this job for years and years, decades. I think this guy worked for the city, okay, and was kind to my kids and respectful, and there wasn't any weird stuff going on. I think I'd keep him around. I think I'd do everything I needed to do to keep this man around. Because you know what's better than one income? Two. Particularly when you want your kids to thrive. Does she want that? Does she think about that? Does she try to cultivate long-term thinking? No. Being with my mom, it was her life. We were just a backdrop. We were there. We were an add-on, but we were not the priority. And the disgusting thing is, my golden child brother, you know, he doesn't get it. And I don't know if he ever will. And quite frankly, I don't care. Because what he did understand was I was being disproportionately fucked with. That's what he did understand. And that meant nothing to him. Because whenever I went back home, that was the favorite taunt. Oh, I'm the favorite. I'm the favorite. And some of that's tongue-in-cheek sibling bullshit. And I didn't really take it seriously at the time because, you know, in my head, I was like, I don't want to be that bitch's favorite. Like, I don't care about being her. You go be her favorite. That's like being a homeless person's favorite person. This isn't a person that is that big of a fucking deal to me. So you be the favorite. But he understood the difference. And I have never done anything to my brother to warrant the ganging up. You know, this motherfucker did a lot of shit, a lot of inconsiderate shit, verbally abused me at a time where I was really suffering, I was down. And that's after me buying this motherfucker sports equipment and trying to offer to put him through school when he dropped out of college because he was built soft and bitch made because my mom coddled him his whole life. So he had to leave college because the coach was yelling at him and he couldn't handle it. You know, which is amazing to me. I ran track and I'll never forget it. My coach said, don't go eat right now because we're going to get intense. You know, this practice, we're going to get intense. Being a teenager, I knew better than him, right? So I went on down to my local In-N-Out and got myself a double-double or whatever, and I thought, yeah, I'll be fine. You know, I'll process it for about 30 minutes and I'll be okay. Lo and behold, we start training, and indeed it was intense. I puked my guts out, all over that fucking track. My coach walked up to me, he looked me dead in my face and said, oh, did you puke? I said, yeah, I just puked. He's like, that's good, you're lighter, keep running. So, you know, me and him ain't built the same. I didn't quit the team, I didn't run away because I got told to run after I vomited. I kept running. And I sucked it up because I knew I was in the wrong. But we ain't built the same. And that's another point of it. And that's why he gets no forgiveness. Because the triangulation and the jealousy was instilled in him at an early age. My brother was in special needs classes. Now, my brother is probably way smarter than he would ever imagine he is. He's great with numbers. But he was in the special needs classes. Again, because my mother didn't prioritize, you know, teaching him and taking the time with him. She just didn't prioritize it. She had other things to do. And when she did do it, she screamed and hollered at him because it reminded her of her own ineptitude. So this woman set fire to my life, my brother's life, her life, and anybody else's life who dared to cross her path. Every little friend she would meet would be gone in a matter of 3 months. Because it's not hard to pinpoint what the fuck this is. So I say all this to say, you know, the prospect of forgiving someone like that is just a nightmare. When I imagine it, it's a nightmare because that means I have to be in contact with you and you cannot self-reflect. And it also means you get a free pass. I'm not giving up. If you, like I said, if you walk up and slug me in the face, you ain't getting a pass. I'm hitting back, or worse. And every time I see you, we're fighting. That's it. On sight. I'm swinging back. I'm swinging back. Why should I not? You swung. Am I going to give the world that treatment? No. I might give some grace to the world, but I'll never forgive an unprovoked attack, man. Ever.